Benita knew something was wrong. She had never heard noises like that before. Last time she checked, Stacy was fast asleep in her crib. She never expected to make this discovery. Benita's body jumped. She had finally put her legs up after a long day of work. The television was low and her eyelids were heavy. What was that? She stood to look behind and under the couch. Where was the sound coming from? She heard the sound again, but this time, it was louder, more persistent, and troubling. Then, she realized that it was coming from the baby monitor. When Benita Rogers was asked what she wanted to be when she grew up, her answer was always the same. I want to be a mom. Before she hit her teenage years, she already knew what she wanted for the future: 2 boys and a girl. But first, she needed to find her Prince Charming. The challenge was more difficult than she expected. Benita kissed plenty of frogs in her youth. And through all the make-ups and breakups, she was oblivious to what was right in front of her. For years, she and Roy were just friends. It was only in high school that he plucked up the courage to ask her on a date to the movies. Since then, they were inseparable, marrying early to fulfill their dreams of having the perfect family. Little did they know of the future that awaited them. Benita thought she was lucky. They had just begun trying when she discovered that she was pregnant. And although mothers usually wait for 3 months to share the good news, she couldn't help but share the news. Benita loved pregnancy. As her tummy swelled, she counted down the days to meet her bundle of joy. But she never expected this. Benita's baby was born prematurely. And unfortunately, it wasn't destined for this earth. She was heartbroken. Benita never stopped grieving, but the loss stirred a determination within her. She was more positive than ever that her destiny in life was to be a mother. And when she felt strong enough, they began to try again. But fate had different plans for these two. Over the next few years, Benita would suffer 2 more losses, each more devastating than the last. What was wrong with her? The scans were always healthy. Doctors were always pleased with her visits. But the grief proved too much. She put pregnancy to the back of her mind and decided to go for the next obvious answer: adoption. But this wasn't your typical adoption. Benita was lonely. She needed some company when Roy left for business trips. They decided to adopt a 4-legged friend. They planned to adopt a puppy at their local rescue center. Then one day, a little black cat stumbled into their garden, rubbing against their legs. They immediately brought her inside and later called her Midnight. And although black cats are considered to be bad luck, Midnight was the opposite. A few months after adopting Midnight, Benita discovered that she was pregnant again. And although it was unplanned, she took it as a blessing. She ate well, eliminated all stress from her life, and did everything she could to ensure a healthy pregnancy. And when doctors informed her low chances of becoming a mother, she wasn't afraid. This time, she had her good luck charm. But she underestimated Midnight's ability. Finally, Benita gave birth to a beautiful, strong baby girl called Stacy. She was everything they had ever dreamed of, completing their family. Naturally, Benita was overprotective. She slept by Stacy's crib for the first month until Rory insisted on purchasing a baby monitor to ease her anxiety. Then, when Stacy was 6 weeks old, they discovered something terrifying. Midnight was usually an independent feline. Most evenings, she was happy just sitting beside Benita. But one night, she began to act strangely. She was insistent on getting Benita's attention, jumping on her lap and pawing at her legs. Thinking nothing of her behavior, Rory shooed her away. But when they realized she had snuck into Stacy's room, they panicked. They raced to the baby's side to find Midnight on the shelf screeching into the monitor. When they realized the truth, they began to sob. When Benita and Rory reached Stacy's side, they discovered that she had turned blue. Stacy was having respiratory failure. Thankfully, Benita knew exactly what to do. She had researched every possible circumstance that could occur with a newborn in the hopes that she would be able to keep her baby safe. They immediately rushed with Stacy to the hospital. Thankfully, she arrived just in time. But how did Midnight know Stacy was in trouble? Although canines are considered to be in touch with human emotions, so are felines. In recent years, studies have shown that cats are able to sense distress more than dogs. It's very likely that Midnight noticed the change in Stacy's breathing pattern and heartbeat due to her advanced sense of hearing. Midnight attempted to get the attention of her owners before finally taking actions into her own hands. But that's not the end of this story. Benita doesn't like to think of what could have happened if it wasn't for Midnight. She believes the black hairball was protecting her little sister. Ever since, Benita cannot keep Midnight from Stacy's side. The two are inseparable. Midnight sleeps in Stacy's room so she can keep an eye on her. But Benita and Rory were surprised at the amount of attention they received from their experience. Understandably, Midnight's rescue has gone viral. News outlets all over the world have been in contact in the hopes of getting the inside scoop of the brave feline. But they never thought Oprah Winfrey to reach out to them. They later appeared on her show to share their experience. Of course, Benita couldn't help but praise Midnight. Benita was anxious enough about being a mother. She's gone through more loss than anyone should endure, and Midnight was there to help her through it. Now, she considers Midnight to be Stacy's guardian angel. Benita is sure that everything in her life has happened for a reason, to lead her to Midnight, to create a family. If you enjoyed this story, wait for our next story starting in 10 seconds. Glenn and Viola thought it was the end. There was no way they would ever see their beloved again. They had to come to terms with their loss. But they never expected this. Viola crept down their old rickety stairs. She could hear the children's steady breaths as they slept soundly. Glenn had a rough day, so she didn't want to wake him. Maybe it was just the wind? But when the sound persisted, she had no choice to check it out. "Is someone there?" she called. Her heart leapt in her chest. But when she finally opened the door, it stopped. Glenn Maloney always wanted a family. Most men wanted fast cars, late nights, and whirlwind romances, but not Glenn. He was lucky enough to meet Viola Tizzle, the partner of his dreams. He had never found anyone like her before, smart, funny, and beautiful. He never understood why she had even chosen him. He knew that she was the woman for him. But things moved faster than they had planned. Glenn knew he would eventually settle down with Viola. Never in his life had he met someone who accepted everything he was and everything he wanted to be. He knew that one day when the time was right, he would propose. He swore to himself that he would give her the life she dreamed of. However, before he got the chance, they were in for a big surprise. When Viola told Glenn that she was pregnant, he was filled with joy. But when the shock wore off, worry settled in. He always wanted a family. But things weren't meant to move this quick. He had a plan: marriage, house, dog, baby. They skipped everything on his list. And as time went on, he couldn't shake the feeling of doubt. Megan was born with a full head of hair. She was a strong and happy child. Her happiness rubbed off on both her parents. Never had Glenn felt so much love for a human being. He finally understood the meaning of unconditional love. He was sure that he was destined to be a father. But deep down, he knew something was missing. Glenn didn't understand what the problem was. He had a beautiful partner and a healthy child. To have one of those in life is considered a miracle, and he had both. He managed to work hard enough to find them a farmhouse on the outskirts of town with plenty of land for Megan to eventually run around. And when her first Christmas arrived, Viola gave him a gift he never expected. Glenn told Viola he didn't want anything for Christmas. All he wanted was to see his little girl open her presents. So, when he found a big box with his name on it, he was skeptical. He pulled the bow off the unwrapped cardboard box to find two big eyes staring at him. His heart stopped. What was this? The Russell Terrier was smaller than Megan that Christmas. They named him Muggsy and watched him mature with their little girl. But as the months passed, Muggsy quickly caught up. Glenn finally understood what was missing from his life. He now had the perfect family. But he forgot how hard it was to raise children. Over the next 4 years, they watched Muggsy grow with Megan. He was there for Viola's second pregnancy and he met baby Kevin before Megan even got the chance. As time went by, Megan and Kevin outgrew the little terrier. Glenn always wished he could pause life. He wanted his 3 babies to stay young forever. He quickly realized that time would never wait for him or anyone else. Megan was 4 when Glenn's life was turned upside down. He heard the brakes screech outside. Megan and Kevin were sitting happily at the kitchen table building a gingerbread house. Tinsel and baubles decorated their home. He immediately ran to the window and noticed Muggsy lying on the road. He raced straight to his side. Glenn couldn't believe his eyes. I picked Muggsy up, but he died in my arms. Glenn couldn't conceal his heartbreak. His companion wasn't breathing. Then, he discovered that Muggsy had no heartbeat. Glenn cried as he rushed to get their beloved animal from his children's sight. When Viola returned home, they dug a grave in the garden and gave him a proper send-off. Little did he know, fate had a plan. That morning at 3 a.m., Viola was woken by a constant rattling on their front door. Was it a burglar? She grabbed Kevin's baseball bat and crept down the stairs. She looked through the window but couldn't see anyone. Why were Nick knockers out so early in the morning? But when she opened the door, she screamed. Glenn raced down the stairs when he heard Viola's cries. But when he reached the bottom, he saw her hunched over a dirt-covered Muggsy. Was he dreaming? Muggsy was covered in dirt and his eyes were bloodshot, he later explained. One look into those eyes, and he knew it was him. What was going on? Muggsy's tail wouldn't stop wagging as they drove him to the vets the next morning. Turns out, Muggsy had been knocked out from the hit and run. After the collision, his heartbeat had slowed to an almost undetectable pace, making it appear that he was dead. But Glenn had buried him deep. How did he manage to get out? Russell Terriers were bred to hunt foxes. The small canines could track, locate, and burrow deep to find vermin. Naturally, Muggsy was born a good digger. So, when he woke in a dark space surrounded by dirt, his instincts kicked in. Instead of digging down, he dug up. Had this ever happened before? Glenn was happy his family were finally back together. Although his children were young, they cried with joy when Muggsy returned. Viola couldn't believe their luck. Or was it more than just pure luck? The kids spoiled Muggsy with hugs and kisses. He was even treated to a new toy. But the story didn't end there. Word of Muggsy's story quickly spread around the town. And eventually, papers and magazines across the country were even talking about Muggsy the dog. But the headlines managed to catch the attention of one of the most surprising hosts in America, Oprah. And the world couldn't believe their story. I guess when he woke up in that hole, he just thought it was another old hole and he dug his way out, not knowing it was supposed to be his grave, Viola explained. Oprah, an avid dog lover herself, shared that she had to have the couple on her show after hearing about their experience. Who knew their story would travel so far? Glenn and his family have viewed their experience as a Christmas miracle. Regardless of what the vets have said, Glenn's still positive that Muggsy stopped breathing that night. He believes that Muggsy just wasn't ready to leave their family yet, which is why he managed to wake up full of life 6 hours after being buried. Was there more to it than the medical explanation? Muggsy has now become famous all over the world, and people are astounded by his story. Some say it was the power of love, others say it was a Christmas miracle. Either way, Glenn, Viola, Megan, and Kevin are delighted to have their family back together. They made sure to get Muggsy some extra gifts that year. But how long was their good luck going to last?